and Marotta. Bickley and Marotta mornings. Arizona sports. The local sports leader. Bickley Blast.
The Cardinals lost a gut punch game to the Chargers on Sunday, but it might have been the best thing that could possibly happen to our football franchise, and that's because Sunday was the Sean Payton Bowl, a game between the two teams that Payton is reportedly eyeing for his return to the coaching ranks, and if the Chargers had lost that game, Brandon Staley would likely be toast. But now it appears the Cardinals might be the sole survivor in the Sean Payton sweepstakes, and if Michael Bidwell is willing to pay the going rate for a real impact coach, and if the owner is willing to give Payton the control and the autonomy he will command, that would be a home run hire. Payton very obviously is a great endgame solution in Arizona, and not just because he's a proven NFL head coach who has won a Super Bowl, it's because he successfully designed an offense around Drew Brees, another diminutive quarterback, and it's because his players know his plan and his offense works. These Cardinals, meanwhile, are 5-13 in their last 18 games. The offense is still stale and predictable, and this quarterback needs a head coach who is going to take him to the next level. And at some point, you cannot defend the indefensible, and the longer Bidwell lingers, the less his fan base will trust the vision and the future of this franchise, and the more the credibility crisis grows in the valley.
On that Sean Payton thing, too, and I know that the piece that ESPN with Graziano and Fowler that they put out last week, they kind of looked at places where Payton could fit, and there's a lot of them that are floating out there. Hey, if Nathaniel Hackett gets blown out in Denver, do you pair Sean Payton with Russell Wilson as a guy that maybe can unlock Russell Wilson's past greatness? Who knows? Maybe he's too far gone. You mentioned the Chargers were a possibility. I don't know if Brandon Staley's stock has ever been higher. What that does to a fan base when you make a definitive play call and a definitive decision to go for two on the road and you carry it out like that.
Yep.
That's a pretty studly coaching move right there. It
really is. And up until this point, Chargers fans were really growing sick of Brandon Staley's act because, like Cliff Kingsbury in the 4th and 1 from his own 34, there's been too much weirdo analytics that don't work. Yeah. Right? When they work, nobody blames analytics. You know what I mean? We had two-point conversions win football games yesterday. Mm-hmm. 2 of them. That's quite something. That's
the best day ever for the 2-point conversion.
It might be because generally in old school, old boy network kind of coaches, it's you're coaching scared, you're coaching for this tie, and let's take our chances in overtime. You don't put yourself out there the way that a lot of modern day coaches tend to do. And that play, I think you're right. That flipped everything about Brandon Staley. Think about what that meant to his football team as well. Yeah. The fact that defense did not have to go play any more football in overtime. Now, had the Chargers failed, Brandon Staley would be getting roasted because you can't go for game-winning 2-point conversions and fail. People don't go, but hey, you know what? The thought was good.
That was also a coach that was really in tune with what the ingredients to that situation were.
Yeah.
And that fourth quarter, the Cardinals defense, while they, played well, they were on that field way too long because the offense could not hold the ball for any sustained drive. So, you hit them when they're down. Kick them when they're down, and they were down at that moment. You kick them, and you saw what happened.
There's a panicky predictability that gets involved in the Cardinals' offense when it gets down to the nitty-gritty of a football game. And I mentioned at the end of the first half, the Cardinals scored a touchdown. Kyler Murray, a very good rushing touchdown with just a handful of seconds left. Even that drive was very wonky in when they were calling timeouts and what they were doing after timeouts and hoping to dink and dunk their way down the field. And I see a lot of that. And like, for instance, if you see a second down sack on Kyler Murray in a high leverage situation, I'll tell you what play they're running next. They're running a little safe flare to James Conner or a running back. And very often those plays gain a lot of yards, and a couple of times they come close to even picking up the first down, and you wonder, why don't they run those well-designed flares, not wide receiver screens where you're asking DeAndre Hopkins, of all people, to block. These are very well-designed little flares. They're give-up plays in the context of when they happen. Why not use those as attack plays when teams are not looking for them? So the sequencing of the whole thing, I think they get locked up, and the offense just shrinks and shrinks and shrinks to the point where, as you said yesterday, this team does not go over the top at all. And they tried a couple of times yesterday. And again, running a guy on a go route, hugging the sideline, that ain't it.
No.
You need to give the quarterback a bigger window than that.
I agree, but those passes weren't close. They were.
I grant you that.
And we had seen Kyler Murray for 3 years, even in small windows, be able to make those throws. But offensively, Bick, I just looked at it, and we were talking about this earlier in the show, just the overall failure of this offense. Yes, Kyler Murray's missed 2 games. Yes, they've got a revamped offensive line. Their receivers haven't been together. But so far in 2022, the Cardinals have played 12 games, correct? Mm-hmm. They've gone over 400 yards once.
Yeah.
And that's not even talking about points. In 2021, they did it 7 times. In 2020, they did it 8 times. Even in the first year of Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury together, where we can say this, and I'm not being attacking or cruel when I say this, neither one of them had a clue for the first half of the season. They did it 5 times. And they didn't have near the amount of talent offensively that they have now.
I know.
There is a real distinct concern that everybody has figured out how to defend Cliff Kingsbury's offense. And the chess move that is, awaiting Cliff Kingsbury has yet to be made.
Yeah. That's very, very accurate. Now, there's probably shared culpability between the quarterback and the head coach as far as that goes. But at the same time, Kyler Murray brings a lot of skill to a football field. I think one of the takeaways from most of yesterday was, okay, now you see why Kyler is the starter and Colt McCoy is the backup, just from the physical gifts Kyler has, the ability to get away, the ability to make plays with his legs. But really, there's just no real coherence to mapping it out and making it work. It's like Cliff has got this offense that Kyler has had experience running in college, but this is the pros. And this offense has a lot of critics, national critics, who say, this ain't going to work in the NFL. You're not playing college football. And so all of that is, I think, coming true. And that to me, more than anything, is it's not just the level of disappointment fans have with what they thought was going to be a high-flying offense under Cliff Kingsbury the day he was hired. It's the idea that you've got to get this quarterback right.
Yes.
And it's not happening now. If it hasn't happened almost through year 4, then it's not going to happen.
It certainly feels that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.